Yeah. We welcome all our viewers and our speakers to another exciting Envision Business Talk. A friendly reminder to post any questions on your YouTube channel and Facebook, and we will answer questions towards the end of the panel discussion. Any of our platform and Envision partnership, if you post any question, we'll make sure that we will grab it and address it towards the end of the discussion. Today's discussion is always a crucial and live topic. Breaking barriers, defying gender bias. The agenda of gender equality and defying bias has been marginally sidelined in recent times. Many reports and research have shown us how the gender balance pushed back against females in this pandemic. For example, according to World Economic Forum's 2021 report, the global gender gap will take an extra 36 years to close after this COVID-19 pandemic. This proves again that we are still a long way from leadership gender parity in the workplace today. Biases perpetuate inequality and reinforce the difference between men and women rather than viewing individuals as people first. It is only a barrier for women, but also it is an opportunity lost for companies, organizations, and its stakeholders, trying to reap the economic benefits and DIB impact on profitability and share prices. Hence, doubling our collective efforts to defy bias, especially in the workplace, is of a paramount importance in the coming post-pandemic era. Today, we're going to focus on the reasons behind gender biases and how and why these barriers still exist in the boardroom and C-suite. It is my honor to introduce our eminent guest, Ms. Gizem Akalın, Vice President and General Manager Gulf at GSK, Mr. Hashad, President and CEO at Avanir Pharmaceuticals, and Mr. Mohamed Samir, Group CEO, Alyasra. Thank you so much for joining me. I would love for Ms. Gizem, since you are the star of today's topic, to start by giving us a pointer about yourself, who you are. We'd love to know you who as a person, as well as an accomplished leadership, I would say role model for so many women, as well as a bit of a pointer about your point of view about our topic today.
Thank you very much, Nairouz. Actually, thank you very much for the very nice introduction, first of all. So my name is Gizem. I'm from Turkey, and I have been working in the pharma industry more than 20 years in different leadership roles. And in the last 7 months, I had an opportunity to take the leadership of Gulf organization in GSK. So that's mainly about me. I'm a business admin graduate from Turkey. And I have done my PhD in marketing as well.
I'm going to touch, since we're talking about diversity and inclusion, in a way also about a very wonderful career, history, if you will, or path that you have had, going from east to west, running APAC, and coming now back to Dubai. And I'm sure that will give us so many insight beyond geography and beyond gender. So thank you so much for joining us. Wael, since you woke up early to be with us, welcome. Wael is joining us from California. So would you like please to give us a bit of a brief about your background and who you are as a person and your point? Wael, you're mute. If you can unmute, please. Thank you.
Yeah. So Wael Hashad, I'm the CEO here at Avanir Pharmaceutical. I've been the CEO at Avanir since mid-2017. Prior to this, I spent all my career in the pharmaceutical industry. I spent more than 18 years at Lilly, and then followed by my time in Boehringer Ingelheim, and then Amgen, and then a smaller startup company in the Boston area. It's called Cedar Therapeutics. So I have over 25 years in the pharma industry. I also spent 2 years at the Gulf as a vice president of the Africa Middle East at Amgen, based in Dubai as well. Just one fun fact related to the topic today. Throughout my 25 plus years of career, I have worked half of my career, I have reported to wonderful women leaders. And then at home, I have 3 girls. So I'm surrounded by women at home as well to remind me of the importance of making whatever possible to ensure that we're defying that gender bias.
Been well coached and mentored. Great, thank you so much, Wael. Lovely to have you, and thank you for mentioning the 25 years, so I don't feel I'm the only dinosaur in the room here today. Mohamed, welcome, and it's really a great honor to have you with us.
Thank you very much, Nairouz. So I actually, I am the dinosaur. I am trying to lead Alyasra as CEO. I spent 30 years of my career with Procter & Gamble, going across different continents. And my last job was in Dubai. Then in 2018, I did my early retirement, was planning to do consultancy and boards, but here I am in an executive position with Alyasra, which has a food service business and also a fashion business. I'm from Egypt. I graduated from there, from the American University, and I have 3 sons. Maybe I will start with a dream from my side. My dream is the day when we walk into a room and let's say there are 10 people, we don't count how many women or how many men, because we are sure there is no bias. So
I share this dream with you, and looking forward for one day, as you mentioned, that we don't even need to mention it because it's just become a fact of life. Gizem, I wanted to start with you, touching on the 2020 latest statistics that shows us that women in senior management roles globally has halted at 29% overall. This creates major concerns regarding the slowing pace of gender equality in the workplace. Is it actually the non-gender bias behaviors and actions that's preventing a fair gender balance in leadership positions? Or do you believe that there are other factors and reasoning behind that?
I think there's multiple factors around it. So, yeah, the first piece is, I think it's about the opportunities. So actually women and men are not equal. So we have got differences, which is the beauty actually. And that's why I think it's all about creating the right opportunities for people to grow and then being in the leadership roles. And as a mother of an 11-year-old daughter, women shouldn't have to feel that they need to make compromises either at work, as a mother, or as a wife, other social responsibilities that you have given since you brought up, or about your career, or about your education. I mean, all of these we're talking about all compromises throughout your journey, which I had faced as well. And if you feel that it's not compromise, but different colors of your life that would bring you, or that would grow you, then we can talk about equality. Then we're talking about a different role. So I wish one day we're not going to be talking about actually woman or men's story, but it's about giving different individuals equal opportunities, equal chances, equal infrastructure, so that they could be in the leadership roles at some point in time. Because I felt that even myself or so many of my women colleagues, they feel sometimes a little bit pressurized. Am I going so much on the work? Should I have to be, deprioritizing the other stuff that I had to take care of? So these mindset things is drawing you down. And maybe it may cause you not to show your 100% of yourself at work because you're confused about it. So that's why for me, it's not about the selection, or it's not about the KPIs, or it's not a 20%, 30%, 50%. But what is, are we creating literally the equal opportunities, and then based on the competencies, capabilities, experiences, whatever, the right people are selected for the right roles. And then we will be less talking about the ratios, but more about the people, or, the right people for the right roles, sort of things.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Gentlemen, who would like to comment, or if you have another point of view about the same point?
I can go.
Sure.
So I completely agree with Gizem on the fact that we have to create opportunities for women. And those opportunities would be around development of, and especially from early on. We need to realize that people don't parachute to leadership roles. They have to be developed, they have to be nurtured, and they have to be grown into these roles. And that requires opportunities that be given and chances to be taken on these individuals. I also believe that we have to overcome some, what I would say, cultural biases that tend to precede some of our societies, like, the men have to lead the household or whatever. These are things that we really need to overcome in order to give equal opportunities as well for men and women to have the same opportunity to succeed and lead in the workplace. But I really believe that the solution comes with creating those developmental opportunities for women leaders.
Absolutely. Mr. Samir, would you like to add any point on this?
Yeah.
Or maybe if you have another factors in mind.
Yeah, I'll talk about it. Given that we both Gizem and Wael agreed, so let me disagree on a piece so that we get it a bit more controversial on this.
Sure.
I think the most important thing is to treat people as people. I think, as Gizem said, and a critical part of this is to start from being yourself, especially if you're a woman. And I've seen many women who get to leadership positions who stop changing because the environment makes them change, right? Mm-hmm. And I think this needs to stop, including it's okay for a man to open the door for a woman. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, right? That's one. And related to this, let's not forget that the world was created 50-50 between men and women, right? There's no one is a minority here, right? They're equal, right? They're equal in numbers, but it doesn't mean they're equal in capabilities. There are some people who are better, regardless of their experience, and I'm not going to get into whether it's a man or a woman. They're not equal when it comes to capabilities and skills and experiences. And what makes us are the experiences. So the next thing after being yourself is to know yourself, especially your biases, because all of us have biases. Everyone listening, raise your hand if you know you don't have a bias, right? Everyone has a bias. The question is, what is the degree of the bias and how many do you have? So once you know yourself and you start working on it, which is the third point, which is you need to act yourself on it. So it could be a very simple thing. If you know that you will always prioritize, for example, people you've known, we're all guilty of this. If you know someone, it's easier for you to take them in a job. So like one of the small actions that I've done in my career is for every position I say, give me one man, one woman.
Exactly.
That makes it very tough for me to choose. And in most cases, the man is the one I know from before, right? So then, and the reason is because the numbers, the statistics show that there are more men available. Now, that's on a macro level. On a micro level in a company, this is not true. Unless you're recruiting millions like Amazon, you can achieve the 50-50, right? So for me, being yourself, knowing yourself, and then acting yourself is kind of a formula that keeps on reminding us that no one is perfect. We shouldn't lecture people. They always say, don't hit people with stones when your house is made out of glass. This is very true. And this is where, frankly, I hate to be lectured on bias, especially because I don't know anyone in the world who doesn't have a bias. I haven't seen this person yet.
Mohamed, since you took initiative in and being proactive in addressing the elephant in the room and talking about the cultural bias effect and the extension of it on individual, household, workplace, let me ask you how you identify the difference between workplace bias and general social bias, and how do you actively defeat them in the workplace?
I think if I want to make it simple, you probably heard the term before, culture eats strategy for breakfast every day. It's all about the culture you build. I'm sure, Wael and Gizem and their own companies, they're trying to build a culture which has, a lot of the inclusion factors, and that gets impacted by where you are, which country you're in. I'm without mentioning countries, but I'm sure in certain places it's easier to do it than in other places. And what mix of nationalities do you have? And rather than using nationalities, and let me take that back, let me say, what mix of experiences do you have? Right? In many cases, you might have 10 people from the same country in the same room, but they have such a diverse experience that they give you different points of view. In some cases, you have 10 different people from 10 different nationalities, and they give you the same point of view because they just grow up together, right? So I think the point is all about culture, and I would translate it into these behaviors that you want to see day to day, and where you are willing to role model yourself.
Wael, what do you think about this? Sorry, Gizem, you go ahead.
No, I think I agree with the cultural bit. So, but when it comes to the workplace, so when the woman is in the workforce somehow, then building in the careers and how you're going to be moving in that has a cultural element of it. But also, it depends, especially in the multinational companies where you have an opportunity, and sometimes for your career you need to move or relocate, for instance. As a woman, how things would work is another thing actually affecting the system, because many multinational companies, and my company as well, is giving opportunities to different people. One day you're in Dubai, the other day you're in Singapore, the other day, a couple of years back, you could be easily living in the senior leadership roles in a container. And then in that context, how the family adopts it, or how many husbands we have to adopt this change or compromise their careers because of their wives. So there are multiple elements in it that would also discourage, I would say, women to take more senior leadership roles, big responsibilities, because it has also very natural consequences that it is not only your decision, but it's a family decision. And again, coming to Mohamed's point, cultural element, how we grow up, how the roles are defined, these are all take a role. And what I observed is most of the times it's not the companies making the choice, but it's the woman itself. The employee is putting the barrier for themselves and making some, tough decisions or voluntary decisions. I don't know, wherever you would like to take it, but even not being the candidate there to be a part of it. Or either they prefer to take other choices in their personal lives, like late marriages or not having children, because in order to grow in their career. So it's again a compromise thing. It depends. So that's why I think culture is one element, but also how far you would like to go and what are the other members in the family or your environment would take a place is quite crucial, rather than the senior leadership picks either female or male.
Wael, what is needed from both genders to identify the required changes and actions in the workplace?
Yeah, so before I answer your question, just wanted to make a couple of comments on Mohamed and Gizem's comments. I agree with Mohamed on the fact that we all have our own biases. There is no one that doesn't have bias. And I think of one of the most important characteristics of a leader, whether you are a woman or a man, is to really always make sure that you are self-aware of your biases and you really check them to make sure that you're minimizing or you're at least self-aware of them. And I think part of the development that I spoke early on is you really want to make sure that you're developing women leader and men leader, for that matter, to ensure that they are authentic in their leadership style. They are self-aware, that you're really, fostering all the right traits of doing this. I think one of the challenges that we always face, and this is going to require courage, in my opinion, is that sometimes when we are hiring people, we tend to overweigh a lot on the experience vis-a-vis the talent. And the talent meaning, do I see an opportunity that this person can do more? Do they have the right learning agility? Do they have the basic leadership skills that I can nurture? Sometimes it is easier to focus only on the existing skill sets and capabilities, and that limit the ability to develop people and stretch people and take chances on people. That's one of the biases as the leader. If we really want to solve that formula, we have to absolutely make sure that we're not choosing the easy way out or the path of least resistance. I'm not saying there is something wrong about this. In some cases, you may need that experience. You may need that skill set immediately. But in some other cases, it may be worth a lot more to invest in someone and their development and growth. The second thing is regarding what Gizem was saying. I think it is also important to define that success in life is not just about career. It's a whole success as a person, as an individual. And that includes both personal and professional. You really don't want to have people who are very successful leader on the professional side, but they really had failed miserably on the personal life. And there is a lot of examples. You want to remind people of what success really is and what is the personal mission and fulfillment for you as an individual to be happy at the end of the day. And I think everyone is going to make their own choices, men or women, but you really want to remind and coach people not to be narrowly focused on the definition of success in life.
Maybe, can I build on this, if you don't mind, Nairouz, because can I build?
Of course,
Sure.
yes.
Okay. So, yeah, I just wanted to say a couple of things. One, I think COVID created an amazing opportunity for people who are looking for location-free roles to go for it right now, because this is the time to go for it. It's an amazing opportunity. So the argument of you have to be in a certain location to do a certain job is becoming very weak. That's the first. The second point, I'm going to tell you a very, very fast story. So I was invited a few years back to talk about work-life balance to a group of people. And they told me like 3 months before it. And on the day of the event, and there are like 100 people there, they called me, they said, we're waiting for you. And it was in half an hour and I had prepared nothing, right? And so I pretended that I prepared and I went and I just walked into the room and I put on one flip chart, one sentence. And it was a question, actually. And I said, the question was, are you willing to make the choices in life that will make you happy, even if it means someone else will be unhappy? Right? And it points to what Wael and what Gizem said earlier, because making these choices, and Wael just touched on it, but the two richest men on earth both got divorced recently.
What lessons we can learn from this, Mohamed? Yeah,
so the statistics. Here are the statistics. 100% of the two richest men got divorced. My point is, choices and happiness go together, and it doesn't necessarily mean all the time it has to be the top position in a company. It could be another position that makes you balance the other parts of your life that you want to do.
Wael, any comment on that? Wael, sorry, you're mute.
I don't want to define happiness by divorce or not, because I really don't know what goes on behind the door. But definitely, as I said, I have seen a lot of people, you can define it in many ways, that they have not been fully satisfied with their just professional career, or they have missed on other things in life that is important for them. But the point is, I think people need to be aware that success is not just the success in the professional life, it's the whole life and the purpose that we all serve in our life or during our life journey. And by the way, some of that, I believe, it has a lot to go, like mentoring people. You know, Nairouz, you and I, we talked a lot about the importance of mentoring. I think, many of us, I'm sure Gizem and Mohamed will all agree with me that we would have never been where we are if we didn't have people who guide us, mentor us, and take chances on us. And these people will remember them for the rest of our life. And I think that's an important legacy that we need to realize. That's part of success in life, is what legacy you're leaving behind. I would just want to say that there are, however, things that we can also do, what I would call it low-hanging fruits, that we can ensure that we're defying some of that gender bias on the short term. some of these things as simple as when we are hiring, like I know on an annual basis, I make sure that I compare my female leader or women leader compensations, for example, to the men leader and ensure that there is equity. These are some of the imbalances that sometimes unintentional. I can tell you, I don't intentionally go and try to offer low salaries, but sometimes you just want to make sure that you're really balancing compensations and things like that. You want to make sure you're focusing on talent development and growth and giving people development opportunity. You want to make sure that the talent that you have the proper mentors, and because that's an important part of being a successful person. You want to check your own biases with the skills and experiences that we talk. So there is a lot of things that we can do on the short term to make sure that we are successful. Finally, I'm just going to say one comment. I work in healthcare, and I always say there is a big difference between treating a symptom of a disease versus treating the root cause of the disease. And we really need to make sure that we are crystal clear about what is the symptomatic fix for this gender bias versus what is the root cause fix in order to make sure that this is something that's said. Sometimes, and I know that Mohamed and I, in another meeting, we had that discussion, but sometimes we find that companies trying to do the symptomatic fix, which going for quotas, for checking boxes, we need to have 3 female leaders on our board or whatever. This for me it's literally treating the symptoms, but does not treat the root cause, because you're really approaching it from just the superficial or optics, but not really fixing why you ended up with lower number of women on the C-suite standpoint. And I think this is a very, very important discussion. I know it's not comfortable, but as we try to really defeat that, we need to ask ourselves, are we treating the symptoms or are we treating the root cause?
Thank you, and you've touched on a very important point, which is the symptoms, like you've mentioned, versus the actual core of the cause. Speaking about the quota, let's put it this way. Of course, there are different ways looking at it. So some would say that this is a solution. Others would say this is the tool that we should be using to enable solutions to happen. Gizem, what's your point of view in terms of having quotas to enable more diverse, let's say, pool of candidates to be presented in any specific board assignment or leadership role, etc.? What do you think from your point of view?
So I wouldn't start with the quota, because rather than the quota, the numbers should eventually come, actually. So are we giving the right or equal opportunities to the people in this C-suite to be there, first of all? So, and it starts not with the C-suite, actually it's with the early engagement of the talent. So when you are recruiting new graduates or new people, how you're growing up in them in the organization, are you giving them the right opportunities, I would say, or growing? And then you're talking about with the numbers. Otherwise, it will turn out to be, as Wael mentioned about, I have got 3 female leaders missing in the overall scheme, so let me go and chase for the female ones and then pick the one who may be less competent than a fantastic, actually, male candidate, which is unfair again. So, I mean, positive. I understood it at that approach, but going only with that direction is not going to help us. And coming back to the root cause, I agree. Again, it's not about the symptoms, but it's more about the root causes. So first of all, we need to understand in our organizations why our female employees, either they're not growing, or in the selection process, or in the development process, or in our HR policies. We need to understand these root causes, and it needs to be done not only at a global level. Global will give you the framework, but as well as in the local levels, because each and every country or region has its own realities. In some of the markets, I'm sure that many leaders saw that it's female-driven. In some, it's more male-driven. So what are the consequences? Or even in each and every function, you have to check and analyze. Based on what? And according to that, if you bring them the right growing opportunities, the right infrastructure, even the right HR policies, for instance, as a female employee, when you give birth, so what would be your, how are you have a flexible working hours, so how you're going to be managing your work, your life. So all of these things, if you consider that and giving the opportunity, then you don't need to think about the quote. Because then if the quote is even, let's say, less than the men, then you need to understand what's the rationale behind it. But checking only the quotas or looking at the numbers, it turns out to be a KPI game, which I don't feel very comfortable, transparently speaking.
Absolutely, and being a female also, I mean, we were talking the other day that, we feel insulted if we were given a specific role simply because we're female. But,
Exactly.
from our, back to your point of view, I agree with you that the quota is kind of the tool to open the door for us. So at least we are able to be present versus, not having this opportunity. But by the end of the day, the choice should be for the most competent and the most fit and the most, capable, I would say.
And one more point, Nairouz, I think it's not only the quota about the overall C-suites, but also the roles itself. So we would like to see more leadership roles. So it's not only some certain functions are more female-driven because, there are more female employees there, but more commercial roles, finance roles, leadership roles, so across the board everywhere. If you could create that, I would say possibilities is for me the key. It's not only, the ratios itself. Also, a functional diversity is also important.
True, but we have inherited, for some reason, some functions that are looked at as back office, for example, that those are female related, be it HR, be it, like you said, for example, P&L responsibility, commercial roles, finance. There is some kind of a perception that these are male, more suitable roles, if I can say. What do you think, Wael, about this perception? Does it really exist? I'm not talking about you, but do you feel that in general, in some organization, there is this tendency that, when leaders are making choices, they tend to get marketing HR for female, but then for the tougher job, kind of a macho man for the tough roles?
Well, I don't know. Tough role, defining tough role is a very interesting one. I actually have a positive belief about some of the roles that you're describing, like HR. I really believe that women are better suited than men because I think they exhibit better empathy toward employees than men do. I think that's in their nature, and we have seen this. That doesn't mean that the empathy cannot be leveraged in general management roles and other commercial roles. I'm not saying that. I also have seen brilliant female leaders. Some of the best CFOs that I worked with are actually women, and they are brilliant. My CFO is a woman, and I think she's one of the best CFOs I've worked with. So I wouldn't necessarily characterize some of the specific role. I really agree with Gizem that we need to give opportunity for functional diversity, but we shouldn't also try to force it in another way. So if there are more women in HR, be it as it may, there will be also some positions where you may have men more than women, and that's okay. I don't think we need to reach 50-50 in every single thing, but we need to make sure that we give people opportunities for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're talking about equity, not equality. So correct. By the end of the day, opening the door and enabling us to have more opportunities, but it doesn't have to be, like you said, a blinded 50-50 in a way.
Yeah.
From my experience as a woman and as a dedicated executive search professional for diversity, I can assure you that women strive to have an equal opportunity for sure. And this is all what we're trying to address here. However, like what we've mentioned, that we understand the complexity of the real world, and especially the specific challenges that you have addressed. Mohamed, if I may ask, how can you define equal opportunity access, taking in consideration all this inherited gender bias, cultural variances in the workplace?
Yeah, I'll answer the question, but before it, I want to get two things out of the way.
Sure.
Some women, many women, when they start the conversation, they start from that the world is a man's world. And even if they believe that, they shouldn't start from that, because you already lost half of the battle by saying that, right? Because as I said, when you're 50-50, no one is a minority here, right? So that's the first starting point. The second one is we need to get, we need to do some myth busting. We need to bust some of the myths that are around. So if you ask any executive, for example, they will tell you, I worked in Saudi for a long time. I know that culturally, women, don't, after they get married, they cannot continue working, and and everyone gets, aligned with the premise, right? And I've seen one of the comments that came on the board. I'm going to give you a very simple example. Saudi issued a law, said 70% of the people who work in malls, for example, need to be Saudi, right? And then there was another side law which said, if the shop is 100 square meters, right, you cannot have men and women working in the same shop, right? So what do you do, right, with this law? So what we did is that we went and hired 100% women, Saudi women, in all of these shops, because then no excuse, whatever, regardless of the size of the shop. So I mean, sometimes the barrier gets you to act in a creative way, right? But the starting point is not only remove our biases, but remove these accepted beliefs that this is the one that we, or like they do research and focus groups among the employees, and they come back saying we found the 3 main reasons why women leaders are not making it to the top. The life balance with the home. I don't know, getting kids. Stuff what very general. And I think we need to to the point about mentoring and finding, okay, what is the specific issue for this person that needs to be tackled. And I think for me, the equal opportunity point is that, and I did an exercise once which was lovely, which is we got 2 candidates, right? And we removed the names of the individuals, and we let the people make the choice. And then after they make the choice, you reveal to them whether it's a man or a woman. Wow, you will see amazing difference, because it's in us. For example, let's say you run a company and you need to put a country manager in Yemen tomorrow or in Iraq. Are you going to choose a man or a woman? And be honest with yourself, right? Most people, including myself, will say, let's put a man, right? But that needs to change, right? So, and the only way to change that is to accept, and work on and be aware of the biases, like Wael was saying, to create this equal opportunity for everyone. And by the way, it's not only on women versus men; it's across nationalities, cultures. Some countries, it's according to what religion you come from, and some people are known by their family name. Which area are you coming from? So there's so many things. So when we reduce these and we make sure our policies in our own companies don't value one thing over another, when it comes to, I'm shocked sometimes. I hear about companies where men get higher salaries than women, and growing up in a multinational, I say, wow, really, this can happen? And yeah, it happens. So these things need to be eradicated, so that you don't enable the system to do that.
Yeah, I think when it comes to compensation, I think a lot of the issues, it's not coming as intentional that you want to give men more than women, but sometimes just it happen. And that's why you want to have a system in whatever organization you're working with to ensure that these unintentional or unconscious biases are not really being executed in your organization. And that's part of our responsibilities as leader to always check for these type of things.
Sorry, absolutely. We have a question from the audience. Paula is asking you, Gizem. She's saying you bravely mentioned personal elements and how it's naturally different for women, and sometimes we can be our own enemies. Do you believe that this creates a divide in gender that is permanent?
Sorry, I couldn't get the question, Nairouz. I mean, I couldn't understand fully the question. Sorry.
Saying, that you've mentioned, that sometimes women can be their own enemies. So do you believe that this creates a divide in gender that is permanent?
I would say it's again about the root causes, because how we're grown up or how we're being educated or the pressure that we feel in ourselves as a woman sometimes might create barriers. At least I personally observe it throughout my career, among my friends, among my employees. Even not verbalized choices are made because of some factors. Of course, success is not only about your career and so on, but what I'm describing is if you feel compromising on something, then it means that you're not making a choice because and involuntarily you're not making a choice. So that's where I am a little bit of trying to mentor or trying to speak with all of the women employees in the organization, that actually it's not a compromise. Or we should have to, as women leaders, we should have to change our mindset that actually everything may go along with each other. Or if you are voluntarily choosing the other option, then you're very successful and happy. I have no problem with that. The only thing is that if you are not choosing it because you think that you shouldn't be choosing it for X and Y reason, because you're not going to be a good mother, you're not going to be a good wife, or that is the thing that we might need to think about ourselves. And I've grown up in Turkey in a very modern family, but socially, sometimes you feel about it. I mean, I felt it personally. I had always a heartbeat when I was going to my daughter's school, because in my previous role, I was in a regional role. I was traveling more than 50%. And each and every time I was feeling that, oh my God, what the teachers will tell me about, leaving my daughter alone. She's just 10 years old. But and then I felt that I'm a very happy person because I love what I'm doing. And when I'm at home, I'll try to give my 100%. I'm not quite sure whether it's enough or not. You never know it. But at least I'm happy. I feel more completed. I feel more full. But that stress was there. I would say yes. I felt it. But then, I made my own conscious choices, which would be more, I would say, absolute happiness at the end of the day. So these sort of things I try to talk with the teams in my office, and I don't want to lead anyone, but I just share my experience. So, if they take something out of this, then it's great. But I respect everyone's choices or everyone's belief, or, that's again, back to the individual. But as a leader, I feel myself that I need to give the equal opportunity. And if one of my female employee has a need, a specific need on anything, I would like to give that opportunity for her to do her best if her heart beats on the job or on her career.
Thank you, Gizem. We have a question from Ziad saying, if we use stereotype definition away from bias, is there a limit of using it to test the difference between individuals from different genders, especially in the initial stage of interacting? Who would like to answer that?
I don't know. Nairouz, as I was listening to some of the comments, I really believe that sometimes we really have maybe unconscious bias. I give you a nice story that happened to me early in my career. I was a manager at Lilly, and one of my direct reports was a female. She just let me know 2 weeks prior to this incident that she's expecting a baby, and that her husband, who's he works in the healthcare, he just got licensed in the state where we used to work. And then my boss came and said, I would like to send that individual to Japan to help us in the launch of this product in Japan. And I said, this is not going to work. I said, we need to think about somebody else. I don't think that person is going to work. And she said, why? And I shared with her, I think she's expecting a baby. She's not going to go. She's not going to disrupt her life, blah, blah, blah. So I did this. And she said, okay, so you don't want to check with her? And I, just out of feeling no guilt, I said, I'm just going to check. So I went to that individual and I said to her exactly that. I said, I know the answer to the question I'm going to ask you, but I'm going to ask you anyway. And I told her. And her response was, do I need to give you an immediate answer, or can I think about it, come back to you tomorrow? I said, no, you can think about it. And I was surprised that even she asked for 24 hours to think about it, because I thought that her answer would be immediate. The next day she came and said, I spoke to my husband and we're going to go to Japan. And I just absolutely learned that I was going to make a decision on someone's behalf just using my unconscious bias. And she went there. This was a great, successful opportunity for her. And she had an international career after this. But these are the things that we really want to make sure that we don't fall in. Mohamed, I heard your comments about Iraq and Yemen. I can tell you, when I was at Amgen, my country manager that overlooked Iraq was a woman, actually. So, and I have some pictures for her with a helmet on her head and a bullet vest on her chest. So,
yeah, it's great. Actually,
thank you.
I absolutely love it.
But I mean, you see, okay, I totally see the point that you mentioned, Wael. It may not be for 100% of the women, but there could be 5% that are willing and ready and suitable and capable. For you, by asking the question, you opened the door, you gave a choice. Even like what you said, if she came back and said, no, definitely I cannot make it, but at least you're acknowledging that, you know, there is a right of opportunity, at least to be heard. And to be exposed, if that makes sense. Thank you. Another question, do you think with more digitization and transforming performance and other attributes to useful data would lead to decreased bias in the decision-making in promoting leaders?
I can tell you, I believe no. Actually, when it comes to people, I like to deal with every individual. You know, I'll just give us a great example. I think you need to talk to every individual as an individual. I have a rule in life which says people before machines and every machine at a time. Which means I cannot use my phone and drive. And if someone is going to talk to me, I need to put my phone or my laptop or iPad and talk to the individual. And I think with individuals, I personally hate stereotyping. You walk into a room and you're from a certain nationality or from a certain group or studied in a certain place, and people say, so then you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I'm not. And so I believe data can be helpful if it's not going to make the decision for you. It's going to help you make the decision, but it cannot replace the one-on-one discussion to understand the individual themselves.
Anybody would like to add on that, on the AI impact on parity?
I think AI has a lot of value in our world, and definitely, but I still believe that the work that we're doing requires a lot of exercising good judgment. And I think that's the big difference between AI and humans, is the judgment piece. There is not everything is black and white and formulas. So I'm a big fan of AI, but I don't know if the solution here is going to be AI.
Thank you, Wael. A great question from Amin, and I'm so happy that someone had addressed it. And he's first of all saying and thanking you that it's a great topic and amazing panel, of course. Thank you, Amin. What would you say the main challenges for a couple who are managing a dual career? And this is, I think it's a very relevant point that maybe I don't want to say every house, but almost every house is trying to juggle in a way.
All right, I'll jump in since I know Amin himself as well. I'll give him that advice. I think if I want to summarize it in a very simple word, communicate. Communicate. Make sure you're both talking about career, purpose, what you want to accomplish. And I don't think it is about one person succeeding and the other one taking a seat back. It's about finding what is the best way to optimize your both lives together. I mean, I'll again, not that I want to say a lot of stories. I have seen my parents who both pursued their PhDs, one of them taking a step back so the other one can finish it. And then after they finish it, the other person took a step back so the other person finished it. This type of communication and alignment is honestly critical for managing the dual career. But it's not impossible, but it requires a lot of alignment and communication.
I can continue. I completely agree. So I feel that it's about you're a team. So you're a small team at home, and you have to know when to play or who to play when. And at the end of the day, the team's overall success, however they define that success, matters. First of all, their health, their peace, and their coherent environment at home. So I completely agree with Wael. It's communication, making the common decisions is the key thing there. And I truly believe that both careers can grow. Sometimes it's a matter of timing. Sometimes everything goes simultaneously very well with your extended support systems for especially the children. But I think it's all about possible. The only thing is that the team should have to decide together. So that's the key point.
Maybe just one build on this is some companies usually ask couples working in the same company, you need to tell us who's the lead career. My advice: don't answer the question. Don't give the answer. Say, we will decide if the time comes that we need to make the choice. But on an ongoing basis, we're two individuals. Treat us as the individuals working. And if it comes that we need to make a choice, let's engage on it now. But don't make us make that choice early, because what happens then is that some labeling starts happening, right? So just keep that in mind.
Thank you, and this is very good tip, and definitely we need more of these tips, if you will, that can help us all in overcoming these challenges and barriers. Serpil asking, again, she's addressing and thanking you by saying it's a bold and very interesting topic. When do you think these stereotypes will vanish? How soon? I wish you had an answer.
Yeah, I can take here. So I think it starts at home, and even our home. So, I mean, we cannot fix all the world or all the cultural elements and root causes here. I mean, it's difficult, but each one of us, while we're growing our children, even small tasks that we have associated with our sons or daughters, it's going to make the difference. Or if we can clean our jokes, driven jokes, sometimes unintentionally we do. So these sorts of small things, if we are very careful about it, I think it's not going to be too far away. But literally, I think we start at home, in our language, rather than trying to solve the overall universal topics or big cultural issues, or as leaders in the offices, putting rules or things like that. So I prefer, and even as women, we do the same mistakes that we are sometimes finding, our male, I would say, colleagues. But we do as well. So we should have to start literally ourselves as mothers, how we treat our children, or how we change our language, or how we behave. And even one more important topic, that we shouldn't be, as women leaders, trying to be a male leader. So we shouldn't have to mimic their behaviors. I love my gender, and authentic, be yourself needs to be there. So we shouldn't have to be a stereotype there and pretending to be like a male leader, for instance. So these sorts of stuff are the key enablers, I would say, to finalize it.
Maybe one build, if I may, is, bad news press for Sutil. I think it will never vanish. The good news is I think it will be controlled. And I'm optimistic, building on what Gizem just said. I have a 20-year-old son, 26 and 12, and I see how they make me behave if I say something wrong in front of them, like the wrong joke, and how it changed. So I think within a generation, things will be much better. Some people think, oh, wow, it will take a whole generation. Wow, I think it's a very short time to be generated. Not that nothing short-term will happen to help, like Wael was saying. There are many short-term things that can happen as well. But I am very optimistic based on what I see from my own children. Things are changing.
Nairouz,
sorry, go ahead, Wael. Yeah.
I was going to add that I completely agree with Gizem on the fact, and Mohamed on that matter, that on the discussion has to start at home, and you really need to make sure you're raising your kids, especially if you have girls, and in making sure that they understand the sky is the limit. There is absolutely nothing that they cannot do and cannot achieve. And you need to really enrich that in them early on as they are children. And we need to make sure that they understand that everything has a solution, and that decision is in their hand. In terms of how long this, to answer the question, I really believe this is not a quick fix, and this is not a flip of a switch. But we also shouldn't be relaxed and saying, things is going to take care of itself on the long run. I think we really need to be purposeful. We need to put plans. As any organization, we all work in a big organization. You always have an annual plan, but you always have 5 and 10 and 15 years plan sometimes. It requires that. There are things that you can do on the short term, but if you don't have a vision about how you see that transformation happening over time, even if it's going to take 5 and 10 and 15 years from now, we're not going to get there. So we really need to be planning for this. And I can tell you, I don't want to end this discussion and that this topic is a gloom because of some of the data, but we're seeing some good signs. When I look at a country like Saudi Arabia, and my dad used to teach over there at the university 15, 20 years ago. I can tell you there was no women in the workplace when I used to go and visit him. Look at today. I mean, some of the brightest people that you see in all industries are women, and they have conquered many things in a matter of 15 and 20 years. What a success story is to see these examples. And we're seeing it in other parts of our world as well. So I think I really see hope, and I really believe that transformation is going. We just need to be enabler in that journey to make it continue and maybe accelerate the path whenever it's possible.
Thank you very much, Wael. It is a continuous effort for sure to defeat the gender bias and achieve equity, and it's an evolution. So let's hope that it won't take generations, and that hopefully within our children's era that they wouldn't have to address this topic any longer. It's been wonderful having you. Is there any last tip or advice you can give us, Gizem? Anything you would like to give the audience before we say goodbye?
First of all, thank you very much, Nairouz, I think, for this topic, because the more we talk, I think the more we're going to be progressing on this. So just let's start small. Let's make small changes in our lives, in ourselves. And as I always say, as leaders, let's even think a little bit further to check our employees, our team members, our family members, our kids, and try to role model, empathize, and give them the options. That's the most important thing. Then I'm sure that it's going to flow.
Thank you very much. Mohamed, any last advice you would like to give us?
I think I would say stay optimistic, be deliberate, and make a small change every day. And this small change that will can make a huge difference in one person's life. The example I gave about the lady who went to Japan just shows that just a 5-minute conversation can change someone's life completely. So, especially when you're in a leadership role, if you're deliberate about these and how you talk to the people and how you listen to them and how you make an impact on their life, I think things will progress. And I'm very optimistic about the future. I started my career with a woman as my boss, and I think I'm going to end my career with a woman as my boss as well.
Cheers to that. Excellent. Thank you. Wael, any last advice to our audience?
I think the advice that I would say is, for all the women, especially the one who are starting their career, the sky is your limit. Just be purposeful. Really work on your own development and growth and building your skills. Know what you want. Know what is your purpose in life and what success looks like. And take the bull by its horn. Don't wait for entitlement to happen. You are an important part of the society and you can accomplish a lot of things. And I wish all of the audience, men and women, all the best of success in life, professionally and personally. And Gizem and Mohamed and Nairouz, thank you for the opportunity to invite me to this distinguished panel as well. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Thank you, dear guests, for this illuminating and rich discussion. We greatly appreciate your valuable time and efforts to share your practical knowledge and opinions. And let's hope we all made a difference to become more aware of gender bias and continue to create solutions. Looking forward to having you in more talks soon. As for our audience tonight, thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed the talk as we did, and please let us know in the comments on our Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn if you have any question, as well as your suggestion for any upcoming topics. And always looking forward to having you. Thank you and keep striving.
Thank you.
Thank you.